All right. Well, I see our faces on OBS. That's always a good sign.
Okay, I like
Good.
it.
Actually, it's good morning for you because you're an hour behind me
It
in your time
is
zone.
good morning. It's 11 a.m.
Good
in
morning.
my timeline.
Good morning. Yes. Are you still on the timeline where is Thor's hammer in existence or not? I always get a little confused about.
It is not,
Okay.
unfortunately, in my
Okay.
timeline.
Yeah, it's too bad
Yeah,
because I think you would be worthy to pick it up, Tim. I really do.
I disagree, but
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
Well, we'll
I'd
get
still
into that.
give it a shot.
I mean, at least there's three people I think who can pick it up. Is that
Yeah,
is that?
maybe a little wiggle, like the first time Steve tried to pick
Yeah.
it up, and Thor's like,
Right.
"Mm,"
See, now I
but I
think
don't think I could do it.
I think he did that just to sort of scare Thor a little bit. I think he could have picked it up, but he chose not to. That's my theory. But
I
I,
think, and I forget what it was, but he had some business to attend to that I think was the last little bit of moral impurity. What a strange moral calculus in that world. No, Steve, there's probably more wrong with you than that. But
could be,
anyway,
could be.
huge fan.
Me too.
More of a Tony Stark guy myself.
Oh,
But
that's fine. That's fine. No, and I think you embody much of the Tony Stark, brilliant, multi-billionaire, compound owning.
not so much that.
Oh,
But
yeah. Sorry, I
part of it.
you have some of
Billionaire,
it. Some of
genius,
it.
playboy,
Yes,
philanthropist.
exactly, exactly. Well, good morning, my friend. We've already been having a very fun conversation on the
We have.
pre-show, and it does make me wonder at some point maybe we should record the pre-show and release that as a whole separate entity. But then I would feel like we'd have to control ourselves a little more than we normally would.
A little bit. I
A
think it
little
was
bit.
all right.
It
But
was
I
good.
mean,
I think
I would have published everything that I sent to you.
yeah. I don't think there was only a mild amount of cursing, and I think we maybe have the explicit tag on anyway, so it probably
No,
doesn't
that's
matter.
true.
But
Yeah, that might have been a little bit of that sort of thing that I wouldn't typically stream. But
it's okay. But I think Hinojosa actually swore show real life.
I'm
So
shocked. I actually my shock
shocked.
face is in the laundry today.
Mine too.
Yeah,
It's a Monday.
right.
I,
Right.
I
It's
try
laundry
to
day.
do all the laundry on Sunday, but then there's always that one load I don't quite get to, and then I have to do it.
Right.
Usually where my shocked face ends up. But, I will tell you, Tim, I have been looking forward to this conversation since we scheduled it, and
As
for
have I.
many reasons. It's been a long time since I've been in the same meat
Mhm,
space as you. So I'm very excited
mhm.
to catch up, and I guess we'll start for the random person who doesn't know who you are, and I can't imagine who that person would be. Why don't you just give your blurb and tell us who you are and how you're doing on this fine Monday morning.
Absolutely. I run the developer advocacy team at Confluent. Confluent is a company that makes an event streaming platform and fully managed cloud service based on Apache Kafka, and also have just sort of connection with the overall developer relations effort here at Confluent. So my direct team focuses on speaking online right now in the late stage pandemic. We're still not really back to in person events yet. Um, we work a lot with Kafka Summit this time of year,
Oh yeah.
uh, evaluating proposals from there's a big community program committee there, but we're a part of it, helping drive that program. Recording talks, recording educational content. I have a podcast myself for Confluent, all kinds of stuff like that. But brilliant team, some of the finest people in the world, and yeah, it's great technology and great people to work with.
Now I've had this sitting next to me since we scheduled. Well, actually since Christmas. So
Okay,
I'll see if I
all
can
right,
get
I'm
this in my
looking
camera.
at
This
you
this
now.
is your
Okay,
Christmas card, and
that is hold it up a little higher.
a
We
little
can.
higher.
I'd
I
like it.
didn't know if you wanted the whole thing shown off or
No,
not.
please. I would like
This is
that
your
to be in
lovely
focus.
family.
Also, it's a little focus is a little soft on that,
Yeah.
but
Well, I mean, it's hard. I'm not very good
it's
at this
good.
camera thing. Not like you.
Okay.
So I really do. I figured at some point I probably should upgrade my whole setup, but then I figured once I went down that path, you couldn't get a hold of anything, and then I figured by the time I
Right.
bought things,
It's a lot
we'd be
easier now.
back to
It's a
normal. It
lot
is
easier now.
easier now.
Yeah.
So
Get you an ATEM
we'll
mini and
see. Maybe my personal CFO who usually sits behind me will okay that purchase. I don't know. We're doing a patio, so I may have to put that at the back of the.
we've done a lot of things, but we're thinking about a patio. Just got an RV.
Ooh,
Um, yeah,
ooh.
yeah.
We'll, we're,
Well,
we'll,
camper van, technically,
we'll,
class B.
we'll come back to that camper van, but the
Yeah, let's
question
talk
that
about the Christmas
the
card.
reason your Christmas card has been sitting next to me since we
Yeah,
scheduled this, you seem to have produced multiple grown adult humans now, and
three
yet,
of them. One of them is about to produce her own new human
oh my
in
god,
about a month.
oh my god,
Yeah,
congratulations, congratulations. I know it's hard work being the grandparent.
I am here for it.
I think this is
I
why
am
we have
so bad.
children. I really do,
Yeah.
is to become a grandparent because it's the best part
Mm,
about being a parent.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, needs to be changed. Here you go. Just
I
load
will
them up.
still change diapers as a grandfather just as much as I did as a father. Totally willing to do that.
But you
I
get
think,
you get to skip some of that if you want to, though, right? You get to do the
and
fun
I know
stuff.
you totally do. And I know we're bunny trailing here. You want to ask something about the card. We'll
I
get to
do.
that. I
We'll
just want
get
to
to
say
that. We're
about
just gonna push it
grandparenting.
down on the stack. Or
I
excuse me,
don't
it'll be on
think,
our queue, right?
yeah, right. Thank you. It's Kafka's not really a queue,
Okay.
but it's in the log
It's in
and
the
we'll
log.
consume it eventually. Um, I don't I don't think grandparenting is about get them full of sugar and get them revved up and then give them back to their parents so your kids' lives suck. I think what really is going on there, and this is yet to be tested, but having raised adult children, I think you're a parent and you don't know what the crap you're doing, right? You're figuring this out as you go along, and yeah, you don't know anything, and so everything seems really important.
Yep.
And I think looking back, you realize maybe 70-80% of the stuff that I thought was life or death didn't actually matter. And maybe young people, little humans developing and growing, they need that.
Sure.
Everything matters in order to develop properly. But I think as a grandparent, you look back, actually, no, sorry, I was really wrapped around the axle about that. Didn't matter.
Fine.
This person
Fine.
just needs some boundaries, some safety, and,
Right.
and to be loved and seen and appreciated, and attached to, and all that. So I think grandparenting, I think the real thing is that you just learn what matters.
Sure.
And ask me in 5 years.
Yeah.
We'll
Well,
find out.
it's sort of a controlled scientific experiment, I guess, is what you're telling me.
Yeah,
You get it's like round two now that you've practiced.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. If you don't screw it up, that's why grandparents can be this magical, oh, these people just love me and
They're great.
everything is okay
Right.
there.
Right.
And home is more stressful because there are more rules and more
Yeah.
boundaries, and maybe there need to be.
Probably.
And
Probably.
maybe it's just that as a parent, and this was me, I thought it all mattered.
Right.
So we'll,
Right.
we'll find out. But anyway, the card.
You can keep me. Yeah. So the card. So now I'm looking at this beautiful family of yours, and again now having produced offspring that will produce their own offspring. You like Rob Lowe, like Paul Rudd, seem
Go on.
ageless. And I really want to know what's your skincare regime? Does
Yeah.
it
Well,
involve
that's
goat's milk? I mean, what's the story?
no.
Because you
I
do
think
not look old enough to
no.
imminently be a grandparent.
And I
So
think, in
help a brother
fairness,
out.
neither does Mrs. Berglund
No, that very
uh,
true. Very true.
at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, she looks like maybe she's got one in high school now, her oldest or
Maybe,
something. Maybe.
maybe
Yeah.
junior high.
Um, yeah, probably more like middle school. It's not
Okay.
right at all. Um,
That's right. We call it middle school now. Sorry.
and it's funny. Well, it depends on the district, but
That's true.
that's funny because you kind of stole my line every time somebody says you don't look old enough to have a whatever, and my stock response is I moisturize.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
and in fact, I don't actually moisturize is the thing.
How could you
Um,
not do that? You live in Colorado. That's why I'm wearing a Colorado shirt just for you today. It's
when I'm
so
drinking
dry.
coffee, also drinking water. You got to drink a lot of
Yeah,
water.
so do I, but it's so dry.
And I try to stay out of the sun. I
That
work
helps.
outside of this big hat, big wide
Attaboy.
brim hat.
Attaboy.
You want a lot of sun on your face.
Sunscreen.
And other than that, you just need to have DNA that causes you to age that way. So that's just my good
It's
judgment,
your
I
gift.
guess, in having chosen. No, I had nothing to do with that. I
It's a gift. It's a
what
curse.
what do I have that I didn't receive? The answer is nothing. So there you go.
Yes, I have thought a lot about that over the long number of years that I've known you. You do not seem to age, and
It'll happen. This we're
tip
getting
of the
some.
hat.
Can you see that? Well,
I,
that's a
yeah,
little bit of,
I
and the
mean,
beard is like almost all the
yeah,
way gray.
no, I'm getting a little bit of that in the beard too.
I am here for it. I'll tell you what. I want
Yeah.
this gray, the full Reed Richards,
Okay.
Stephen Strange. I am ready. Think how good that's going to look, Nate. Really.
I mean,
Uh huh.
you're gonna age gracefully, brother. There's no getting around it. No getting
Just
around it.
I want the gray. There will be no hair dye on this head.
Okay, all right, all right. I mean that is part of the deal. I mean, unless you want like hair dye running down your face, which is not a good look. Not a good look. Do not
Not a
advise. Do not advise. All right. Well, I'm glad we got the moisturizing thing out of the way. Although I
yes.
I tell you, I think if you could just publish your secrets, there would be a market for that. I'd get in line. I'd get in line for that. But
I'll see what I can do.
I appreciate that. So, how did you get into technology? What's your sort of technology origin story? And this to me is one of the fascinating things is we have such a divergence of folks in this industry, this diversity here, and nobody seems to have the same path. So how did you decide, "Yeah, I want to play with computers as an adult?
Yeah. How long do we have? Um,
As long as you want.
okay. All right. It started, maybe I was 7 or 8, and I don't remember what the actual gateway drug was. It might have just been Radio Shack, because
Okay.
back then, Radio Shack sold electronic components in the back.
Back then,
And
Radio
that's a
Shack existed.
well, thank you. Um, and that's a thing again
Okay.
now. Micro Center is not a particularly widely deployed store, but it's in a few cities across the country. If you know the Bay Area, if you know Fry's,
Mm-hmm.
Micro Center
Yep.
is like Fry's with minus Best Buy.
Okay.
So it's computers, maybe some TVs. Um, that's where you go to get your big case of CDRs back in the day,
Oh
burn some
yeah.
CDs. And now Micro Center has added kind of a hardware hacking section. So there's Pis, there's
Nice.
Arduinos, there's electronic components,
Ooh.
there's all kinds of kits. So it's a thing again. But back in the day, Radio Shack had that at the back, and something about it called to little boy Tim, age 7, age 8. It just was like, this is right, and this is good. And they had little books. A guy named Forrest Mims
Oh,
wrote,
that's a good name.
isn't it though? And he wrote these engineering notebooks that were just lessons on how to build circuits. And there was a circuit that would make 16 LEDs blink in sequence, and there was a circuit, Nate, that would count. It had a 7-segment LED display, and it would freaking count. How can it count? Right?
It's a miracle.
There's not even a person. Um, and this stuff just really got me. And so I got into that as a hobby. I was terrible at it. Most of what I built didn't work. Um, but again, these days, like you can use some web-based schematic capture and PCB layout tool and click a button, $50, they're going to make some circuit boards and ship them to you. It's a wonderful time to be alive. Back then, you got this copper clad board and wrote on it with Sharpie and put it in this highly caustic etching solution to make a circuit board. And you drilled this.
Known
Just,
carcinogen in 17
don't
states.
flush it down the toilet unless you have all PVC pipe. And so yeah, this is Tim as an 8-year-old. So there was kind of like a tech thing going on there.
Sure.
But then at the beginning of 5th grade, the real origin story begins. Scholastic Book Club, that newsprint kind
Oh
of
yeah.
broadsheet thing. Yeah.
That was a good
Um,
day, wasn't it? When you got one of
oh,
those and you got to, wander through it and check
so
books.
good.
Oh
Get
man.
stuff. And I was in 5th grade, so I'd been doing Scholastic. It was
Yeah.
just part of life.
Yeah.
But there was a book on basic programming.
Oh,
And I had seen computers in stores and stuff,
sure.
and that in electronic stores and things, and I knew that was definitely
The
a highly
thing.
attractive object.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh, I'm getting this book on basic programming, and I got it. This is kind of in the fall, and I read it, and like there's a book on calculating blackjack winnings, or a program for calculating blackjack winnings, and I don't remember any of the others. Um, but I've just absorbed it, and I'm like, this is what I need for my life. This is the thing that is me. And my parents got me a Commodore VIC 20 for this is
Ooh.
1982.
Wow.
Commodore VIC 20 for Christmas that year. We also had a 3-foot blizzard on Christmas Eve that day or that year.
Checks
So
out.
we woke up Christmas Day with 3 feet of snow on the ground. So there was some programming, some playing in the snow,
Yes.
but I really never
As
looked
one
back.
does.
Yeah, I went from VIC 20 to Commodore 128 to Amiga 500. Got myself a C compiler. I got the white book on a shelf back there somewhere. The actual copy of the white book from which I taught myself C on the Amiga 500 with the Lattice C compiler.
Oh
So,
my God.
any other old timers out there hearing this, I'm here for you.
Other graybeards like us.
Other gray beards. Look at this,
I
neatly
know.
trimmed, not neck beard, but gray
No,
beard.
no. Yeah.
And that was it.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
I recognize a fair amount of that. I don't know that we've ever gotten 3 feet of snow on Christmas Eve. Living here in Minnesota, we've gotten our fair share, but we don't
Right.
quite get the mountain snow.
No,
But,
that was the most magical ever.
oh, I bet.
Literally on Christmas Eve, just whiteout blizzard and drifts, and everybody of a certain age who grew up here, they got stories.
Oh yeah, we have the Halloween blizzard if you're of a certain age. And I think that was 91, I want to say. I don't remember the exact year, but it was one of those where we got enough snow on Halloween that trick-or-treating kind of became a challenge, if
No.
not an impossibility. And
Right.
I don't remember the exact snowfall total, but it was enough to make a dent. And yeah, anybody who's again of a certain age will know of the Halloween blizzard in
Know these
Minnesota.
things.
So, crazy. Well, I'm glad you found tech because, then you and I got to be friends. So, it
Exactly.
all works out. So, awesome.
Me too.
Awesome. So, tell me about, so have you grown up in Colorado? You've always been a Colorado boy?
Almost always. I was 5 when my family moved here
Okay.
from basically Philadelphia, Allentown, a little bit of both of those.
Okay.
This was before the Billy Joel song, back when there were steel mills there. So yeah, I grew up here, and college, and then a year after, in the early '90s, um, were in Central Florida. But
Because you
other
just
than
said
that,
what's the most complete opposite of mountains and snow? I'm going to go to one of the flattest
a giant
places.
slab of limestone,
Yes.
just a few feet
Just
above the ocean.
just a smidge above the ocean.
Yes, 98% humidity and hot all the time.
Yeah, no.
Um, yeah,
See, I recognized, having been to Colorado, enough that Colorado is on the list of places that I will relocate to if I
mhm.
decide to leave Minnesota. And a huge part of that is because you don't have humidity. I
Nope,
love your climate,
yep,
with the exception of the fact that in the summer, if you do not apply sunscreen liberally and regularly, you will burn to a crisp because you're about 6 inches from the sun.
that is correct. So you learn to respect that. I do yard work in long sleeves and jeans.
Sure,
And I still kind of sunscreen on my face, obviously, as part of the
obviously,
skincare,
it's the
and neck,
moneymaker.
and wear a big wide brim hat. It's you defend yourself.
It's the way to go. It's the way to go.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. Oh God, let's see. Where do I want to go next? I feel like we had this whole host of things we kept kind of popping. If I was smart, I would keep notes and then I would go back.
Right.
But I don't know how to write while I'm talking at the same time. I'm just not that
So
bright.
I don't know if you want to do like kind of more autobiographical stuff, or Kafka, or I mean,
What do
there's
you feel like talking about? I mean, I'm
I feel
trying
like
to think.
talking
What
about. I
what did
always
we
want to
talk
talk
about
about
in the
me,
pre-show?
right?
You're right. We should have recorded the pre-show.
Yeah,
That was pretty
it
good
was
stuff.
so good. Let me just kind of, from that, we got up to the Amiga 500 and the C compiler. The rest of it
Absolutely.
doesn't take forever.
Sure.
I went to school. Staring, look at my degree right here, Florida Institute of Technology, Melbourne, Florida, Bachelor of Science, Computer Engineering. Um, so I kind of had this hardware background, and I was writing software. I'm like, well, this is what I want to do, but they're kind of connected. Which one do I really want? And this was
Hmm.
a degree program that really purported to offer both. Um, and I completed that degree. And about midway through, I got a job at a startup in Central Florida. Hotbed, early '90s
There
startup
was there
city.
was a lot of tech stuff going on in Florida.
Yeah, it was a satellite communication startup, and learned firmware. It was kind of like mildly embedded PC stuff at first, and then more proper firmware later on. But really just became a firmware developer in this telecom space, and loved it. That's what I did. We moved back up here because our first baby was born. That's Zach, shown in that picture, standing next to Mrs. Berglund, next to his uh, very beautiful wife. Um, and it's also my desktop background, that same picture, by the way. So I'm just looking at them right now.
Well
Anyway,
done.
moved back up here and still kind of stayed in the embedded systems space for a while. And then towards the end of the dot-com boom, I was like, hey, what's this Java thing? And
Mm,
databases are for people who aren't good at software, right?
right,
That's
right.
what young,
And don't
arrogant.
like vowels.
Yeah, right, right. Like if you're using a database, obviously you couldn't hack it with the real stuff.
Right.
Um, Pat, 25-year-old Tim on the head and send him away. Um, so I got into what we now call full stack web development, with early servlet and JSP stuff, and just spent a while in that life. And then um, kind of towards the 2010 timeframe, was independent, working for myself, and realized I really loved training.
Hmm.
I was good at teaching people things, and also you could bill more in a day if you're
Yeah.
making 10 or 15 people
Right.
smarter than you can just doing your own thing, writing code for a day. And you're actually creating more value. I'm like, oh wait, I love it and it makes more money. Let me do that.
Ding, ding, ding.
And that also led to public speaking. I spoke at a meetup, and I remember the feeling. I was so exhilarated. It was just a meetup talk on, I don't know what, some open source BI tool that was new. It might have been Talend or something like that
Sure.
back then. Maybe Grails. I don't know. It was 2008 ish, and I'm like, yeah, this is my life. I need this. It was that same feeling as that basic programming book.
Right.
in that Scholastic Book Club. Like, this is the thing that I'm called to do. And so in the, I guess, 13 years since, more and more of my work has been, first it was training, public speaking, developer advocacy, trying to take some new technology that's hard and scary, but happening and big
Right.
and needful, and help other people like me learn it in a way that's not scary, in a way that lets them move forward in their career. And this sounds like I'm making this more altruistic than it needs to be, but honestly, this is a part of my heart. Is that
Yeah.
it's like we're scared all the time. There's always some dang new thing,
Right.
and sometimes they're big new things. And you're like, I don't know how to do this. It's not what I've done. It's not what I learned in school. It's not what I do at work. How do I do this? Because
Right.
I know I need to do it to move forward. And I want to take those people and say, it's okay. Let me get you over that hump,
Right.
and off and running in your direction. So that's how I am now in the developer relations space. And I suspect I'll stay here. I mean, it's famous last words, but it seems like this is a stable place.
No, I'm with you. I love this gig because we get to play with new stuff, learn it enough to teach to somebody else. And I'm with you. I love the teaching aspect of this. I love helping people. To me, that's a really rewarding thing. And I teach at the U of M in one of our graduate programs. And what's
Right.
been remarkable to me is this year I've had 4 or 5 of my students who have asked me for like career advice, and I'm like, I'm happy to help. And I've had a couple of like, can we have like a one-on-one and talk about these things? I know, like after school, even. I'm like,
You're
sure.
like, come to my office hours.
Right. I have office hours. Yeah, no, they're just scheduled. So it's how that works. But I think there's a lot to be said for that. That sort of giving back to others and understanding that none of us got to where we are by ourselves.
Nope.
We all learned from other people. We all read that tutorial or followed along with that how to or whatever it was.
Or
And
we're directly mentored by, I'm thinking of the guys at that first gig at
yeah.
that startup, and that poured into me. Like, hey,
Hmm.
here's this kid who wants to learn this stuff. Let's help him.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things I love about this industry is there seems to be, I mean, it's not universal, but there certainly are a lot of people who are very willing to help and teach and bring everybody along, and I hope to see that continue, and I'm glad we get a chance to do that. But so we talked a bit about this before. I think we're hopefully on that sort of downward trajectory here of this pandemic we've all been living for the last year plus. What have you been doing to sort of survive, to keep your sanity? Is there anything you've been falling back on to kind of help you get through? I mean, as we talked about in the pre-show, we have that privilege of basically just doing our job, just doing it from
Yeah.
home on a Zoom call
Yeah.
instead of getting on an airplane. But it's been hard for everybody in various ways. So what have you been doing to kind of retain your
Yeah.
sanity, so to speak?
Yeah. It's great question. I just want to echo the thing that you said, is that you and I are in a very fortunate situation that our job can get retooled, and we didn't lose it, and we're still
Right.
creating value, and we're still doing what we do.
Right.
It looks different, and it's different in important ways, and I think in difficult ways, but it's not like um, variety of service industry folks who, especially early on, like, they just didn't have a job. There's nothing
Right.
for you. Or other people whose jobs have gone. I have a good friend who's works in the events business, and has a good job as a roadie, is what he is, for an act that tours, and that's highly skilled labor, and he doesn't
Hmm.
have a job right now. So,
Right.
you know, let's just not forget the fact that
Right.
it's easy for us to stay at home.
Yes.
Um, I just want to make sure that's clear before I begin to complain.
Well, we live. I had this conversation with a buddy of mine once. We were playing golf, and I was complaining about something, and he said, "Nate, that's a first world problem." And I said, "You're right. I live in the first world. Those are the kind of problems we should have." And so I've taken that a step further and said, "Well, that's a zeroth world problem when we're complaining about something." Well, like the other day, we were trying to watch a movie on one of the seemingly limitless streaming things that are out there, and the app kind of kept rebooting essentially, and I'm starting to get a little frustrated. And then I'm taking a step back going, all right, I'm sitting in my basement with this big old TV and this beautiful sound system. And my biggest complaint is it's going to take me slightly longer to watch this movie.
Right,
Like,
right.
that's a zeroth world problem in a nutshell.
And you gotta keep perspective that
Yes,
there are people who have it a lot harder than yourself, but
100%.
also Um, yeah, you remind me of a thing from the Confessions of Saint Augustine. It's kind of the first two-thirds are an autobiography, and the last third is kind of some really just philosophy. It's what you'd call like philosophy of time and memory and stuff. Anyway, he's talking about his childhood. He grew up in Africa in a part of the Roman Empire where Latin was spoken. Latin was spoken in his home, and he had to learn Greek at school, and he hated it. He just wasn't good at it. And his teacher would hit him with a stick, and this was just standard educational
Maybe we should
process.
try that.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. You're not doing well at your lessons. I'm gonna hit you with this stick until you do better. And he'd kind of come home crying, and he was recounting this.
I can imagine.
He's writing this at about the age of 40, looking back to when he was 8 or 10 or something.
Sure.
And he'd come home crying because his Greek teacher is literally beating him.
Sure.
And his parents were like, kids, these are kid problems. We got much bigger problems. Believe me, you're gonna know when you grow up. Life's a lot harder as an adult. And he's looking back on this, kind of Monday morning quarterbacking his parents, as all adults do. And as my kids are now old enough to do with me. And he's like, no, you know what? Yeah, fair enough. But that's all I knew.
Right.
So first world problem. Yeah. But in this case, it was a Roman Empire problem. I was just a kid, and sure, maybe problems get harder, but that was really painful for me, mom and dad.
Right.
So anyway, the hard part of the pandemic. Yeah, man, it took months for me to realize, because it took all of us months to figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
It was probably July 2020 before I really accepted that the fall conference season wasn't going to happen.
Oh, 100%. Well, I don't know about you, but I remember in last spring, kind of that February, March time frame, you're thinking like, well, we're going to be off the road for a couple of weeks. And
yeah.
What do you mean?
2 weeks to flatten the curve.
You mean I can't go to this event in France in April? What are you talking about?
Man.
You're doing what to my corporate travel? And and then to your point, we all kept kind of thinking, well, by July, well, by September, and then I think we all had this moment where we realized, oh yeah, no, it ain't happening. There's nothing going on. We're all just living at home.
And we didn't know. And so I don't think I appreciated how much speaking to people live, how much that feeds me.
Yes.
There are two kinds of days that are my favorite days at the office. And neither one is doing email or Zoom calls.
It's Slack. Wait, probably
not even Slack. Okay. No, I mean, these are necessary parts of being a professional, and you do these things. You have a job, you do it, you're grown up. But the 2 days that really actually make me feel joyful are days in the studio, video studio, and being in front of a group of people. And I didn't realize how much getting away and being in my embodied physical presence, this is me here, sharing physical space with other embodied human beings, and talking to them. I didn't realize how much that fed me. And it was kind of July of last year. I'm like, oh, I don't know when this is coming back.
Right.
And there was really a grieving process there. Like, that was just sad. And seeing, I've been remote for 20 years. This is my life, and I prefer it. I don't want to live in the Valley. I like the Denver area. The kids are kind of slowly maybe moving back here. That's a good thing. I think remote work is great, but being able sometimes to just go and see my coworkers,
right,
huge. Being able to speak in person to a group of developers, kind of life-giving for people like us. So you take that away, and that just sucks. Yeah. And also, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's the energy. You don't get that energy reflected that you do in front of a live audience. I did a presentation at some point where whatever streaming technology we're using, I could actually see one of the video feeds of one of my participants. So it was the person who sort of introduced me.
Nice.
And it was one of my favorite talks of last year because I could see him and he's nodding along and he's laughing. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I was giving this presentation to him, and I know he didn't realize that, but it was so, it just reminded me of all the things we haven't had by doing these remotely. And again, I very much appreciate that I've been able to do this, but I miss my people, and I miss I mean, at this point in a normal cycle, you and I would have crossed paths somewhere at
A
least
few
once, if
times,
not
couple of
multiple
times.
times. There
Yeah,
would have
I'd have
been
gotten a hug
coffee,
from you.
there would have been a hug, there would have been dinner, and I desperately miss that.
Bourbon.
Oh, there would have been whiskey.
And so I think I'm still going to get to, how we've made it through, but I think one of the take homes, and this is something I already believed, but I think there's a broader awareness of this now. You'll have like there's a introversion extroversion axis just among
Yep.
people, and the very far introvert side really is okay with this, and then
Yes.
seeing people's attacks on them, and it's
Right.
difficult, and so this has been a time for them to just
Energize.
relax.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which is that's a chunk of humans,
Yep.
and like we need to let them love that. That's not me. And I think in general, this is true of introverts also. But you got to remember what we are, and Zoom, Slack, email, all of the stuff that our people have built in order to do remote work. It's beautiful. We need them all. They need to get better. I want 3D display technology. I want a Nate hologram. I want it all, right? But we're not just information.
Yes.
And when you reduce us to information and stream that over the internet, it's good. Phone calls are good. Zoom calls are good. I FaceTime with my kids. I like these things. Um, but there's a but,
Yeah.
which is that you're also a body, and getting your bodies in the same space uh, is a meaningfully different kind of interaction. I think we've all kind of felt that.
Yep.
Even if you don't have an anthropology that can account for that, and we wouldn't agree on such a thing anyway. Like we know, okay, no, having your body in the same space matters. Probably not just a bandwidth problem. I think it
Right.
really is a thing. And so I know that, and I'm looking forward to being in space with people again. Probably what has kept me going, I guess, the other thing I love is being in the studio, and
Sure.
we've made a few more videos than we normally would have. So there's still plenty to love about that.
Sure. Is there any? I'm always curious to see what people are reading or streaming or listening to. Is there anything in any of those genres that has been particularly meaningful for you? I mean, I found Ted Lasso to be the absolute salve that my soul needed in
Oh,
2020, and
okay.
have watched it twice now, and we'll definitely watch it again before the second season kicks off in July.
Okay. I was just about to open my Kindle app to remind me myself of what I've been reading. I don't just want to talk about what I'm reading anyway.
I love
Um,
knowing what people are reading because I'm always
honestly,
looking for recommendations.
it's not always, that's just not always stuff I want to talk about. But I'm just looking here.
I
Yeah,
just finished a book
no.
on, I think it was called 14 Conversations by 14, because I am the proud owner of a teenager.
Hmm.
And so my lovely wife suggested I should read this book after she read it. And I'm certain, lots of very valuable information in that book that my brain has failed to retain. But and my lovely wife just heard that comment.
I heard her.
Dang it, Tim! I need my own studio where I can hide.
Well,
See, that's been the hardest part about the pandemic, is having everyone around me, because I tell stories about my family as part of my job. And
uh-huh.
they have now
They
heard
hear
all the
them.
stories. And
Right.
so they know what I'm saying about them when they're not in the room. So yeah. Cool.
So we have been, what have we watched? Um, we're working through all of Star Wars, including the animated material,
Ooh.
in chronological order. We're currently
Ooh.
at the end of season 4 of Clone Wars. So
Ooh.
anybody who knows the corpus knows we're kind of, I don't know, a third of the way through,
You got a ways
quarter.
to go.
There's a lot of material. And I think Carrie is maybe thinking, why did I agree to this? But Clone Wars is good. It's 22
Yeah,
minutes. It's, if you're going to just eat dinner, it's just the two of us, right? We're going to sit on the couch, eat dinner. That's kind of dinner, and
sure.
you get through an episode. And maybe if you're feeling it, you can get through a couple more.
Sure.
But that's been fun. I have, over the past few years, been watching The Expanse, as
Oh,
that's gone from sci-fi to now Amazon Prime,
yes.
and I just rewatched it all over the
Okay.
last few months, and I can't recommend it enough. It Because it's based on a series of novels. The series itself changes; it kind of reinvents itself.
Sure.
I will say to anyone who's interested, season 5, the most recent season, contains one of the best televised treatments of trauma and trauma recovery that I've seen. It's incredibly artful, and you're not going to get it all in one pass through the season. You're going to have to do it twice, or tweet at me or something, and we can talk about it.
Okay.
It's just it's so good. In that vein, WandaVision, obviously,
Yeah,
I know
that's so
everybody's
good.
been doing that. Same kind of thing. It's like screenwriters and showrunners. Everybody's thinking about trauma right now. That's what
Yeah.
WandaVision was about.
Hey.
Yeah, and we did Falcon and Winter Soldier, which
Yeah,
of course did rename itself in the last episode. I
that's
won't
right.
give it away as a spoiler, but that was, I would say, outstanding writing.
My son was not delighted by the new costume, and I'm not entirely
Mm.
sure why he doesn't get a full helmet, but
Yeah.
maybe a little too much white on that. With I don't know,
No.
it's fine, but the kid was like, I don't like the costume.
I'm like, wow, there's some other things going on here, son.
Yeah, yeah. I think he
So
maybe failed to see the
America
larger.
is wrestling with
Right.
certain aspects of its history
There's
and its ongoing
there's a
struggles.
bigger message here.
There is, and it's really being handled awfully well,
Yes,
in
yes.
my opinion. So maybe sit and learn. No, that
He's a
was
teenager,
fantastic.
so
Yeah, right. What else have we watched? We haven't gone through. We did season 2 of Cobra Kai, kind
okay.
of early in the pandemic, and we haven't watched season 3 yet. I
All
don't
right.
know why. I keep saying, "Do you want to do Cobra Kai?" She's like, "Nah." So we'll get there. Um, and yeah,
So,
uh, reading. Here's a couple books I'll talk about that
okay.
I've been reading. I'm reading Leviathan Awakes, which is the first book in the Expanse
I have
series, which
that
begins
on
as
my device as well.
it's funny if you've watched season 1, you're like, oh well, that hewed very closely to the book, now didn't it? Um, and another
Should
slightly
you
more
read it
serious.
before you watch it? Do you think?
Yeah, if you're that kind of person, yeah.
Sure.
Otherwise, reading it is you're kind of checking the box.
Right. Right.
And it's a fine novel. It's just that you already know what's happening.
Sure.
There's a couple things like, uh, Miller didn't go to the jujitsu studio in the series. Like, okay, that was cool. Um, and on a more serious note, I read a book last fall called "The Body Keeps the Score." And I said this idea
Oh,
of trauma and trauma
yeah.
recovery is a thing that is just kind of in the popular conversation a lot. That's a book about that by the guy Vanderkolk is his name, who's kind of the guy who's blazed that trail, and it's heavy stuff
Hmm.
for a streaming show like this, but helpful, good book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you and I are both of an age when we had these things called network television schedules that
Mm.
ruled our lives, and we were watching the first season of Friends with Everett, and at the end we had to tell him, okay, this is what was known as a cliffhanger, and you had to wait all summer to see how it resolved itself instead of just hitting the button to play more. I got to tell you, at this point, I'm adamantly of the opinion that binging is the way television was always meant to be consumed, and we just didn't know it because we didn't have that option. And there, Christine and I were watching, I think it was Snowpiercer, and we started it while the second season was in progress, blew through the first season, and then all of a sudden discovered we're caught up. And then it's like, well, what do we do now? It's like, well, I guess we just
Crap
wait
is
a few
this?
weeks.
I want to
And
watch the rest of it.
right, you're like, can I just not see the rest of it? What, you have them recorded? I know that for a fact. So please give me access. I think it's. Someone was telling me this, or I saw this as a tweet, that when we were young and you were homesick from school, you didn't have access to your favorite shows. You had to watch things that were clearly not meant for you. You were not the target demographic, and it was
Well, and therefore, you and I associate that being homesick from school with ginger ale and The Price is Right.
yes, yes, thank you. Whereas my son, if he doesn't feel like reading or whatever, he's watching Bob's Burgers. I think he has watched every episode of Bob's Burgers multiple times. He's constantly going back through them. And so for him, when he wants to just have the TV on, it's Bob's Burgers. So if he were homesick, he wouldn't be subject to that. And the kids these days, Tim, is what I'm saying, and get off my lawn, you whippersnapper.
Well, very much. And you got to look at how TV has changed. And I don't know, it's chicken and egg thing. I don't know which came first, but
Mm-hmm.
um, it's it's 100% serialized now. It's
Yeah.
long form storytelling.
Yeah.
There is no episode that stands alone. It used to be in the era of syndication, like you couldn't write TV that way.
Right.
In a in a regular story or like in a film, um, the protagonist has to be different at the end, right? There's some problem that they have, they encounter it, they try to fight through it, they fail, and then the problem that's in them, they see it and they fix it, and then they're able to overcome the external challenge, and they come back home at the end changed.
Mm-hmm.
Pippin and Merry riding back into the Shire 6 inches taller and with armor. You're not the same as you were. TV writing couldn't be like that because you had
Sure.
to start over, and you couldn't show them in order because they're going to be reruns and syndication, all this. And people say it's The Sopranos that gave birth to the modern era of TV, and I think there's some truth to that. And I don't really know the history of this. You'd need an entertainment historian, but I think, to my knowledge, it's Deep Space Nine,
Mm.
5, 6 years before that, where that showrunner, and I forget the guy's name at the moment, but typical of me, had to fight with the network to do serialized storytelling because they had stories they wanted to tell that were going to take 5, 6 episodes.
Right.
And they're like, no, syndication. And eventually they're like, you know what? We're actually just doing this.
Sure.
Which was scary. And like from a business perspective, it wasn't clear that was a successful strategy. But that's TV now.
Yeah.
And now the TV is a thing you can binge. Well, of course. You just want a long movie.
Yeah.
You want 12 hours of movie.
Well, that's what I was thinking watching WandaVision, is that this is essentially, whether you want to call it 3 movies that are put out over 9 weeks or whatever it is, or 2 really long movies, or however you want to phrase it. But that's basically what
That's
some of these things
exactly
have come. And
yeah.
I think it opens up a whole realm of storytelling and different arcs they can get through. And frankly, I think that's a lot more fun when you can follow these things along. And it seems to really feed that deep sort of experience of someone who really wants to immerse themselves in it. That line from season 2 episode 5 was a harbinger of this thing that happens in season 4, and it's like, whoa, okay. And was that really a throwaway line? No, it wasn't.
It wasn't.
And I think that's really, really powerful in what that allows you to do as a storyteller.
And it's hard to tell sometimes when you have entered a golden age. You don't always know. We are
Right.
so much in a golden age of television. You and I grew up with this notion that TV rots your brain. Like, don't watch too much TV, it'll rot your brain. When you look back on something, there's some classics. Knight Rider's awesome. Airwolf, still the most awesome theme song ever. There's the stuff that from our childhood that kind of still tugs at our heart. And
Right.
previous generations, same thing. But they kind of had a point, actually. TV, Price is Right, not going to move your mind forward.
No,
just not going to do it. You're better off doing just about any other activity.
Right.
But that's not the case now. There's so much that's worth discussing. And like when WandaVision was unfolding, there was a work group chat room. It wasn't in Slack, so I won't say channel, but where that's what we talked about.
Right.
And analyzed it, thought about it, dove deep into notions of trauma and all this. Yeah, sorry, that's Airwolf didn't do that.
Well, you're right. Now, I think that the challenge then, though, is where do you spend your time? We all have limited amounts of time and resources. And I do love your cup, by the way. I've been meaning to mention that since I first saw it come into the frame in our pre-show. But Christina and I have had that conversation a couple of times. Like, do we want to rewatch something? And it's like, but there's so many things that you could dive into. She and I went through Battlestar Galactica, and it's a commitment when you're going to take on something that has 60, 70, 80, 90 episodes and a few movies as well. I'm glad we went through it. The ending maybe left a little bit to be desired by my standpoint, but it was a really fascinating series in its entirety. And so you're always kind of jostling that. Well, I don't know. Do we give this a chance? Do we rewatch something we know is amazing? So that's our zeroth world problem.
Right. Has Sletton been on the show yet?
Yes. Okay. I'm sure Brian has.
Yes. So we should link to Brian's episode in the show notes. He is my constant source of have you watched X yet? And it's mostly just no, I haven't.
Right.
Like if we've watched the same thing, yes, we will discuss it in detail, but there's just so dang much.
Yeah.
And with me not being on the road, I don't have time for all that TV.
Well, and that's a good point, because when we travel, you have that opportunity. I binge watched a lot of stuff on transatlantic flights. That's how I watched The Wire. That's how I watched Breaking Bad. As you'd load a season onto your iPad at the time, and you'd watch that on the way over, on the way back. It's hard to do that when you don't have any of that. And I've anecdotally, I've heard some people are consuming fewer podcasts now because you don't have a
Mhm.
commute to listen to
Oh,
your
our
podcast.
traffic, yeah. I
Right.
mean, it didn't crater, but it was a measurable drop.
Right, right. So it is kind of fascinating how some of those forces, sort of act and counteract. But yeah, it's been an interesting debate, to try to have those conversations. And, we've been trying to go through that. What do you make sure the kid has seen? What are those sort of cultural touch points that you, as a good parent, want
Mhm.
your child to have? And so we've got them through about half, I think, of Friends. We'd like to complete that, but that's where my internal OCD bumps into my kid's desire to like set that aside, because I'm like, but we haven't
Got to
finished
do
it.
the whole thing.
Let's
Yeah,
finish it. So, but
right.
maybe I'll have to pitch the let's go through the entire Star Wars canon. He'd
Yeah,
probably be down for that.
probably do it.
We did watch
Um,
the Bad Batch on Sunday, so
see, we want to, but it's not time yet. We're trying to do this
right,
chronologically.
right.
So
You got a
we
ways to
watched the
go.
trailer, and I'm like,
You'll get there.
subscribe. Yeah. This looks like fun.
Yeah.
Um, I also made it through season 2 of The Punisher recently. So
Ooh,
these are not carry things. Expanse is not a
sure,
carry thing.
sure.
Punisher, 100% not a Mrs. Berglund show. So those go slower because most of the time I'm watching TV and I'm at home. I'm going to do it with her. That's
Right,
just how it goes.
right.
And so we find stuff of mutual interest. And frankly, if we're watching through all the Star Wars canon, I think I'm just going to go ahead and not complain.
You're kind of winning on that one.
Doing fine. Um, and Punisher ended up good. I appreciated that. It wasn't as good as Luke Cage. I think Luke Cage was better.
Okay.
Um, but good.
Now, I think we'll get back to, we talked about this in the pre-show that the new normal will be somewhere between the pandemic lockdown and before, and we just don't know where
Yeah,
on
yeah.
that continuum it'll land. But I feel like at some point this year we'll probably get on airplanes again and move around, at least the country, maybe even the world. Is there any place you're just dying to get back to? Is there a city that you just
Well,
really miss?
Mountain View, and I'm going there tomorrow.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. So recording this in the middle of May, year of our Lord 2021. I actually have a brief HQ visit with various COVID protocols still in place. I will have a thing stuck up my nose tomorrow
Ooh,
morning.
ooh, fun.
Hate it.
Lucky you.
Hate it so much. No, hate it. But you know, uh, we're in this together. So going to HQ, that's going to be glorious. London, Oslo. If I can get back to New Zealand, Australia,
Ooh.
and I kind of some new places. Seoul, Korea. Never been to Korea.
Mm.
Um, and I've been to Singapore, but it was a highly distressed trip due to a delayed flight and
Ooh.
lost luggage and
Mm.
my inability to find a place that sold deodorant. And if you know why that's funny. So yeah.
Can
Um,
recommend Seoul, and I'll say Singapore without deodorant could be a problem.
it's yeah, and it just you're like, wait, isn't this a thing here? And
Hmm.
no, it's not. What are you talking? No. And so what can I say? Um, it there was the uh what is it? Marina Bay Sands, or is that the place in Clearwater Beach? The big hotel in Singapore with the three towers and the
Yes,
thing. Yeah.
and the
Right
surfboard.
across the street there's this uber luxury mall, right? And I'm
Yes,
there at 11:30 at night, just rolled in, luggage is not there. And here's Louis Vuitton
yeah,
and
been in that
Hermes
mall.
and every global luxury brand ever, and I'm looking for the 7-Eleven
Right.
and I can't find it. It was, and so I need to get back to Singapore and really embrace it for the thing that it is, and not just kind of be mad all the time. And I wasn't mad at Singapore; it was just a crappy trip for
Right.
travel reasons. Like to get back there, but I think top of the list, Mountain View, London, Oslo, and I might. We actually are planning travel in the fall,
Okay.
and governments will have their own opinions, and they have guns, so usually
They have ways of enforcing their opinions.
enforcing. their opinions. Yeah, the guys at the border, if you just run at them, they'll shoot you. So don't do that.
Try not to do that.
Um, yeah, but there are certainly plans for me to keynote
Sure.
at some Confluent events in October, maybe a conference in August, maybe one in September. Might put in for one in November in Germany. So I'm thinking that's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat. I've pitched some events for the fall, and we'll sort of see what happened. We were talking about this before too, but it's amazing how quickly things have changed, at least here in the US. If you would have talked to me in February, I would have said, well, there's no chance I'm even going to be vaccinated by the end of summer, let alone by fall. And I got my second dose last week. My son gets his first dose tomorrow. And so we're rapidly going from a position of, well, my father-in-law is vaccinated and that's it, to, well, pretty much everybody in my circle is going to be vaccinated. And Christine and I, before you and
Yeah,
I hopped
and
on here
if
today,
you look at the aggregate numbers, I mean, it's a sigmoid thing, right? It was ramping up with supply,
yep,
and then there's this exponential growth, and now it's kind of like, well, people who want one kind of
yeah,
can get one.
yeah.
Um,
We
so
we're planning, having the family over for Memorial Day weekend, and that's something. If you would have told me about that in February, March, I'd been like, that ain't gonna happen.
yeah,
Maybe Fourth of July if we're lucky, and I'm quite confident that my in-laws will be here for Memorial Day weekend for some part of it. So things can change, and I'm guardedly optimistic that August, September, October, or whatever it is, things are going to be in a better place for some countries. I don't think it's going to be universal, obviously, but
oh no, no, no,
it'll be
but
interesting to see what that looks like.
where immunity is strong enough and infection rates are low enough, and people are, vulnerable people are safe.
Hmm.
It'll be a pleasure to be able to go to those places.
Now it's lunchtime for me and almost lunchtime for you, so I feel like I have to talk about food, and I've somehow managed to not talk about food the last couple of weeks, so
Yeah, wow.
I'm gonna go there. What's your favorite meal? What's a comfort item for you? I've got a birthday coming up here. What should I ask my lovely wife to make if she's gonna make me a birthday meal?
Wow.
And I should send you pictures of what I made on Saturday, by the way. I'll
I've
I'll,
been
I'll text you
I've
that
been
when we're done here
slacking on the
today.
cooking in the last few months, honestly.
Okay.
Just kind of some other stressors. I haven't been doing it as much, but I watched the Thomas Keller masterclass on
Oh.
cooking, 3 parts, like
Ooh.
36 episodes each part. It's all the other celebrity chefs on masterclass are like, here's my omelet recipe and here's my chicken cacciatore. And he's like, this is a vegetable. You're like, oh, okay. Okay, I'm listening, sir.
Go get some
Right.
potting soil.
Right. Right. This is how you hold a knife. Um, yeah, it was so good. So I've done some fun things with that. I Let me think. What I'm thinking about right now, I have a call as soon as you and I are done, so I don't get to eat yet. But good old kale salad, some
Oh,
kale,
yeah.
bacon bits, half an apple diced up, some mixed nuts diced, little cheese. I usually grow alfalfa sprouts. I'm out of those right now, but I grow alfalfa sprouts in the kitchen. Um, a little olive oil, salt and pepper. It's just so much money. Uh, I was under conscious sedation and fasting for 2 days last week,
Okay.
um, for routine medical reasons, on which one need not elaborate. And I said, when this is done, there's going to be a Red Robin mushroom Swiss burger and sweet potato fries and
Mm.
extra sweet potato fries
Well, and just
with
keep
the
bringing the
happen.
sweet potato fries. Thank you.
And it was glorious, Nate. It was
Excellent.
everything I needed it to be.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, based on the advice of my friend and former colleague Paul, I actually smoked a tri-tip on
Ah,
Saturday afternoon. So I will send you pictures. It
okay.
was
Oh,
glorious.
I have been sous videing a little bit,
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, love it, love it.
Okay.
So,
Rice cooker
the way,
for meat.
right, right. I haven't done any veggies in it, but I've done lamb, chicken, I think salmon, tilapia, and various cuts of beef. And I mean, you can go wrong on the sear afterward. It's not like you can't
Mm.
screw it up.
Hmm.
But I've done it on hot cast iron. I've done it with a blowtorch. That's kind of fun. I mean,
Oh,
why would you not use a
I
blowtorch
mean,
if you can?
if you don't
Uh,
have a blowtorch in your kitchen, are you even doing it right?
are you even trying? Yes. The sous videing has been good, and just being able
Okay.
to get just a picture perfect cook all the way through the meat. Uh, and it's fun. You can load up the bag with seasonings and
Yep.
whatever it is you want to put in there. I'm into it.
I've heard it's a good way to do ribs.
Yeah, yeah, it's a big one, and the bones can be. This is a problem with lamb chops too. With the bone in, they can kind of poke. If,
Mm,
like a bone saw has cut through, you can have a sharp edge and you
hmm.
lose the steel. That's been
Nice.
a little bit of a struggle, but yeah, love the sous vide.
All right. Yeah, I haven't gone down the sous vide path. I did start the making of bread. And that was what I did when golf season ended, and I had to find some way to distract myself from the fact that golf season was over.
I made
And
2 gluten-free sourdough loaves, and then I stopped.
all right, well, that's probably fine. Yeah. Well, but you have good reasons for that. My family are carboholics, and I have made pizza lately. That's become a family favorite. Now, what I didn't anticipate was at some point Christine noticed that I was cooking basically 4 or 5 meals a week, and she's like, "This is great. You can just cook all of them." And the kid's like, "Awesome. We won't have to eat any more vegetables." And then Christine's like, "Okay, no, I'll cook at least twice a week to make sure that you get some vegetables in
See,
there."
I am passionate about vegetables. I mean, I love meat.
Yeah,
I am 100% a carnivore. There's going to be meat if I'm cooking. I mean, I have a kale salad and I, sanctify it with bacon bits.
absolutely.
But um, vegetables are good, man. You cook them, prepare them. They're good for you. Everything is
You,
just
a good roasted Brussels sprout is hard to say no to. Get that nice
hey. If we're in
caramelization.
Clearwater Beach together in December, not only are we going to do the smoky old fashions
Yeah.
there,
Oh yeah, we are.
we're going to do those Brussels sprouts.
Yeah, we are.
I have
Oh,
literally overeaten those Brussels, had so many of them that I do not feel good.
oh.
That's with Brussels sprouts.
I,
It's
I
just
want to know what that number is because
it was two orders, two of
oh,
those,
that'll do it.
but I
Yeah,
just
that'll do
did the
it.
whole.
Yeah,
You're supposed to
yeah.
share them, and I'm like, well, I'm just
No,
gonna eat all
no,
those.
I'm just gonna take these right here. Yeah. Oh, those smoky old fashions. I forgot
The
about
smoke
those.
and
Oh my God. Oh.
I've been making good old fashions. I have not got a smoker, but
No, I don't have one of those
I did
either.
get a little spherical no bubble ice ball maker, so
Okay.
it's just this perfect ball with no bubbles, and it's beautiful.
I have one that does, at least in theory, the square, but I haven't quite mastered it yet. And so there's some piece of that I'm missing because I'm not quite getting the results that I'd hoped to there. So, but I'm with you on that. Christine, I think Stein gave us this recipe for, I think it's like a hibiscus margarita
Mm.
that is, yeah, you can drink those very, very easily. And it's very easy to go, wait, how many have we had? Like, because there's a little bit of that delayed reaction. And then you're like, oops,
That
thank
was a
God we're not
mistake.
going anywhere,
Bad life choice. We're gonna stop.
We're gonna just cut it off right there, and thank God it's the 14-year-old can take care of himself.
Right. Remember, tell them we don't know much about kids, so if you need anything, best get it yourself,
That's
or
right.
better yet, learn to do without.
It's no instruction manual that comes with the kids, right? And there's no warranty that I can tell. There's no return policy. I mean, it
No.
feels like there are some issues with how we do that. But well, let me throw a few lightning round questions at you here.
Sure, let's do it.
So I'm curious to see your answer on this one because you've done both oceans or mountains.
Mountains.
Okay. My son would like to trade Colorado some lakes for some mountains. So if you can facilitate that with anyone you know in government there,
Okay.
let me know.
I'll see what I can do.
Okay, thank you. Food trucks or Michelin star restaurant?
Food truck.
Okay, that's been the most
Food
popular
truck, not
answer to
even
that one.
difficult. Yeah, yeah.
See, I like knocking down some stars, man. I miss
I know
my
you
my
do. I
dinners
know
at
you do.
core, buddy.
It's just the we've talked about this diminishing marginal returns thing. I don't think the money's there.
All right,
Good food
so
every day.
I'm hopeful that at some point, either late this year or next year, you and I will both be in London, and I will bring you to core, and we'll work this out.
I'm open to it.
All right, we'll make that happen. Ebook or paper book?
Depends.
Okay.
Ebook for most books, but if you're doing a group book discussion, the random access features of paper and the freeform schemaless annotation of paper books are usually better.
It's also hard to say. Please turn to page 57 when your page 57 and my page 57 are not.
Yeah,
in fact,
it's
the same
an
page.
ebook, and there's search and there's some random access.
Right.
They're still more like scrolls,
Right.
and bound books are have just better random access and schemaless annotation. So it's good for group studies.
Yes. Action, comedy, or drama?
Action.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's place for all of them, but you make me gun to my head.
Yeah, I've had a hard time watching drama the last year, to be honest with you. It's like, please don't put people in a bad situation. I've already seen
Me
enough of
too.
that.
Maybe for other reasons, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. DC or Marvel?
Marvel, Nate.
Yeah, I know. I have
Nate,
to ask. There are the occasional fans of
I'm
DC out there.
offended.
I
Anyway, go on.
All right. Game
These are
of
good.
Thrones or Lord of the Rings?
Lord of the Rings. Actually, have not watched Game of the Thrones.
Wow.
But yeah, I know.
I think that's something you need to consume, my friend, because that
I
is
am
the books are the
thinking
first
about
three books are good.
thinking about.
Then it gets a little
But
weird. But
Lord of the Rings, 100% for life. I mean,
okay,
all the devices in my
okay.
house are named after places and people in Lord of the
Smart.
Rings.
Smart.
SSID is Valinor. Come on,
Oh, I like where your head's at. Pie or cake?
pie.
Okay, because I'm gonna be having some cake for my birthday. I'm just gonna tell you that right
Well, I
now.
mean, cheesecake, apple pie. Those are
Ooh,
really the two. I'm not a big dessert guy, but
is
apple pie is good.
cheesecake really a cake?
Right.
I
Our
think it's
taco
closer to
sandwiches.
pie.
Metaphysics is difficult.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the difference between a muffin and a cupcake.
Hmm.
I mean, and then we have the breads like banana bread. Is that really a bread? I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm sure there's a definition that I would understand if I were a professional baker, but I'm
Yeah.
not that
Yeah.
person. So, all right. Well, I heard you say I have a call, so I don't want to keep you any past that I have to. So I recognize that you probably have more important things to do than hang out with me.
I would rather do 20 more minutes of lightning round. This is fun.
I mean,
That I should.
if you want to stick around, we can
Give
make
me,
that
give me,
happen.
give me, give me three more lightning round questions.
Email, text, or tweet.
Tweet,
Okay. Coffee, espresso, or tea?
coffee.
Okay. 42.
That's the answer, I guess.
Let's see here. What
One
else did
more. I
I?
can't stop.
Okay. What was my other one? Okay. Emacs or Vim?
So Vim, I mean, I've done both. But in terms of continuing usage, I'm an old timer. I say VI.
Okay.
I in the 90s as a firmware developer, I wrote all that code in Emacs. But I've also written C code in VI, as insane as that
Oh,
sounds. Um, I was okay at Emacs for a while, but
sure.
never a real big eLisp programmer.
Okay.
So Vim and it's going to be VS Code or something like that for
Sure.
actual, or
Sure.
IntelliJ for actual coding.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Okay. All right. Well,
We actually
okay.
have a dog now. She's adorable,
Yay.
Lucy.
We have two cats, and I'm amazed that neither of them has ventured into the frame today. Usually they like to be a part of this. So
You like to be a part of it?
they also
She'll
like
turn
to
around and
lay
walk
on the
away.
keyboard. So
Huh?
that's a
Well,
very
this is
comfortable
called
spot.
between chair and keyboards.
Darn right. Darn right. Well, Tim, I know you've got to run. I thank you so
Uh,
much for your time, buddy. This has been a
it's been
blast.
wonderful.
I was
Yeah,
been looking forward to this for weeks and weeks and
me
weeks,
too.
and
Did
I'd
not
love to give
disappoint.
you a giant hug, and I'm looking forward to doing that hopefully sometime this year.
I
My best.
will run towards you like that part of a romantic
Oh my
comedy where the
God.
guy runs. I'm going
Let's
to do
just make
that.
sure we don't pull a hammy or something. I don't want to blow
Yeah.
an Achilles.
No,
So
I'm in all right shape. I'll be okay.
yeah, I know, but you got to warm up a little bit.
You
Get a
do. You do.
little
You don't just
stretching.
rush into these things. It's
Yeah,
certainly,
that's right.
pushing 50 here.
It's got to be smart. Got to be smart. So.
All
All right.
right,
Well,
Nate.
thank you so much for your time, my friend. I really appreciate it. We'll be back next week with my buddy Abdel from Google, and then we'll see what happens. But Tim, thank you so much for hanging out with me, buddy. I really appreciate it.
You got it. Have a good one.